What would you do if everything you believed in was built on lies? Imagine discovering that the love of your life was hiding a dark, twisted secret. Tonight, we unravel a tale of betrayal so deep, it shakes the very foundation of a family. This is the story of a man deceived by those closest to him, a betrayal by blood. Are you ready to uncover the truth? The story opens with a picturesque relationship between the protagonist and his girlfriend. They met through mutual friends and quickly fell in love. The chapter paints a picture of a love that seems perfect. Weekend getaways, romantic dinners, and a deep emotional connection that makes the protagonist believe he's found the one. They've been together for 18 months, and during this time, they've built a life together filled with shared dreams and plans for the future. The protagonist reflects on how everything felt right, how they were always on the same page about their goals and desires, and how excited he was to start a family with her. As the chapter progresses, the couple's happiness reaches new heights when they find out she's pregnant. The protagonist is overjoyed, seeing this as the natural next step in their relationship. He envisions a perfect life with their baby, imagining late-night feedings, first steps, and family holidays. He feels like the luckiest man in the world, completely unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. The pregnancy brings the couple even closer, or so the protagonist thinks. They start planning for the baby, decorating the nursery, attending prenatal classes, and discussing baby names. The protagonist is involved in every step, feeling a deep connection with the unborn child. He's excited to become a father, dreaming about the life they'll build together as a family. However, subtle changes in his girlfriend's behavior begin to surface. She starts to withdraw emotionally, becomes more irritable, and frequently complains of feeling unwell. The protagonist chalks it up to pregnancy hormones, not suspecting that anything is amiss. He's too caught up in the excitement of impending fatherhood to notice the signs that something is wrong. As the chapter closes, the couple welcomes their baby into the world. The protagonist is overwhelmed with love as he holds the newborn for the first time, convinced that his life is complete. But the reader is left with a sense of unease, knowing that this perfect picture is about to be shattered. After the baby is born, the protagonist begins to notice more significant changes in his girlfriend's behavior. She becomes increasingly distant, spending less time with him and the baby. She starts staying out late, giving vague excuses about needing space or spending time with friends. The protagonist, already tired from sleepless nights and the demands of a newborn, starts to feel uneasy. He tries to talk to her, but she brushes off his concerns, blaming the stress of motherhood. She's irritable and short-tempered, often lashing out at him for small things. The once warm and loving relationship is now filled with tension and unease. The protagonist starts to question if he's doing something wrong or if there's something deeper at play. As her behavior grows more erratic, the protagonist begins to suspect that she might be hiding something from him. He feels a growing sense of dread, but he pushes it aside, telling himself that things will get better once they settle into their new roles as parents. The protagonist's suspicions grow as his girlfriend's strange behavior continues. She becomes increasingly secretive, guarding her phone and computer, and often leaving the room to take phone calls. He notices that she's texting more frequently, often smiling or laughing at her screen, only to quickly put it away when he enters the room. One night after she leaves for another night out with friends, the protagonist decides to follow her. He's conflicted, not wanting to believe that she could be unfaithful, but the nagging feeling in his gut won't let him rest. He follows her to a bar across town and watches as she meets up with a man. They share a drink, laughing and touching each other in a way that's far too familiar. The protagonist feels his heart shatter as he watches them leave together. Back at home, he's consumed by anger and heartbreak. He starts going through her things, looking for more evidence to confirm his suspicions. He finds messages on her computer from multiple men, explicit and intimate, confirming that she's been unfaithful for a long time. The realization that his girlfriend has been betraying him throughout their entire relationship leaves him feeling devastated and betrayed. Determined to get to the bottom of things, the protagonist decides to confront his girlfriend. He's filled with a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief as he prepares himself for the conversation. When she returns home, he shows her the evidence he's found, demanding an explanation. At first, she tries to deny everything, claiming that the messages were just a joke, that nothing happened. But when he mentions seeing her with another man, her demeanor changes. She breaks down, admitting to the affair, but what she reveals next is even more shocking. She's been cheating on him not just with one man, but with several, including someone very close to him. The protagonist is blindsided by this revelation. He feels like his entire world is collapsing as he tries to process what he's just heard. His mind races as he considers the implications, especially for the child he's believed to be his own. Reeling from the revelation, the protagonist becomes obsessed with finding out the truth. He's haunted by the possibility that the baby he loves and has cared for might not be his. The doubt gnaws at him until he can't take it anymore. He decides to get a DNA test to confirm his paternity. The process of getting the test is emotionally draining. He feels guilty for even considering the possibility that the child isn't his, but he knows he needs to know the truth. The wait for the results is agonizing, filled with sleepless nights and endless scenarios playing out in his mind. When the results finally come back, they bring a new kind of devastation. The baby is indeed related to him, but the DNA isn't a match. The child isn't his, but rather his little brother's. The protagonist is overwhelmed with a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, confusion, as he tries to comprehend this new revelation. The betrayal runs deeper than he ever imagined. The protagonist's world is turned upside down as he grapples with the results of the DNA test. The revelation that the child he's been raising as his own is actually his brother's sends him into a tailspin. He's filled with rage and disbelief, unable to comprehend how something like this could happen. He confronts his girlfriend again, demanding to know how this could be possible. She admits that she's been sleeping with his younger brother, but there's another shocking twist. She's also been involved with their father for the past 2 years. The protagonist is stunned, feeling as though his entire world has been shattered. This chapter delves into the protagonist's emotional turmoil as he processes this information. He feels betrayed not just by his girlfriend, but by his own family. The sense of betrayal is overwhelming as he struggles to come to terms with the fact that the people he trusted most have deceived him in the worst possible way. As the protagonist delves deeper into the twisted web of lies, he uncovers even more disturbing truths. His girlfriend reveals that her relationship with his father began before they even started dating, and it continued throughout their entire relationship. She was leading a double life, keeping secrets from everyone involved. The protagonist is horrified by the extent of the betrayal. He feels sickened by the thought of his father and his girlfriend together, and he's filled with a deep sense of anger and disgust. This chapter explores the protagonist's inner turmoil as he tries to reconcile the person he thought he knew with the reality of who she is. The protagonist's feelings of betrayal and anger are compounded by the realization that his father, the man he looked up to, has been sleeping with his girlfriend behind his back. He feels as though his entire life has been a lie, and he struggles to find a way to move forward. With the truth out in the open, the protagonist decides to confront his father. The tension is palpable as he approaches the man who has betrayed him in the worst possible way. This chapter is filled with raw emotion as the protagonist confronts his father, demanding answers. The confrontation is intense, with years of unresolved issues bubbling to the surface. The protagonist feels a mix of anger, sadness, and betrayal as he confronts his father about the affair. The conversation is heated, with both men exchanging harsh words and accusations. The protagonist's father tries to justify his actions, but the protagonist isn't interested in excuses. He feels a deep sense of betrayal and loss, realizing that the man he looked up to is not the person he thought he was. The confrontation leaves the protagonist feeling empty and lost, unsure of where to turn next. The fallout from the revelation is devastating. The protagonist's relationship with his family is shattered, and he feels isolated and alone. His trust in those closest to him has been completely destroyed, and he struggles to find a way to move forward. This chapter explores the emotional and psychological impact of the betrayal on the protagonist. He feels a deep sense of loss and sadness, mourning the life he thought he had. The betrayal has left him feeling broken, and he struggles to find a way to pick up the pieces. The protagonist's relationship with his girlfriend is over, and he's left to grapple with the reality of raising a child that isn't his. He feels conflicted, unsure of how to navigate his feelings towards the baby he once thought of as his own. As the protagonist begins to come to terms with the betrayal, he starts to think about how to move forward with his life. This chapter focuses on his journey towards healing and finding a way to rebuild his life after the devastation. The protagonist decides to cut ties with his father and brother, unable to forgive their betrayal. He begins to focus on himself, seeking therapy and support from friends to help him process his emotions. The protagonist starts to find strength in his own resilience, determined to build a new life for himself. The chapter explores the protagonist's journey towards self-discovery and healing. He begins to find peace within himself, realizing that he has the strength to move forward, even after everything he's been through. With time, the protagonist begins to rebuild his life. He starts a new job, moves to a new city, and begins to focus on his own happiness. This chapter explores the protagonist's journey towards a new beginning, as he finds the strength to move on from the past. The protagonist meets new people, makes new friends, and starts to find joy in life again. He begins to heal from the pain of the betrayal, realizing that he's capable of finding happiness on his own. The chapter ends on a hopeful note, as the protagonist starts to build a new life for himself. Years later, the protagonist unexpectedly runs into his ex-girlfriend and the child he once thought was his. This chapter explores the complex emotions that arise from the reunion, as the protagonist reflects on how far he's come since the betrayal. The protagonist feels a mix of emotions as he sees the child, now a young boy. He feels a sense of sadness and loss, but also a sense of closure. The protagonist realizes that he's moved on from the past and that he's no longer defined by the betrayal. The chapter ends with the protagonist finding peace within himself, knowing that he's overcome the pain of the past and is ready to embrace the future. The final chapter of the story focuses on the protagonist finding closure and peace within himself. He's come a long way since the betrayal, and he's found a new sense of purpose and happiness in his life. The protagonist reflects on his journey, realizing that the betrayal, while devastating, ultimately led him to a place of strength and resilience. He's learned to trust himself again, and he's found a new sense of inner peace. The chapter ends on a hopeful note, with the protagonist looking towards the future with optimism and confidence. He's finally found closure, and he's ready to embrace whatever life has in store for him. The truth is out, but the scars remain. What happens when betrayal comes from within your own family? Share your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. If this story gripped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more real-life stories that delve deep into the complexities of human relationships. Thanks for watching, and join us next time for another tale that will leave you questioning everything.